Thank you. The Honourable Shane Mallard.
All bills.
Thank you, Mr Assistant President. I rise to speak in support of the planned relocation of the Museum of Contemporary Arts and Sciences, known by most people as the Powerhouse Museum, to Parramatta. In doing so, I want to highlight the funding deficit in arts in Western Sydney and highlight this fundamental reform to the distribution of cultural investment in New South Wales. In February 2015, the Sydney Morning Herald reported that 1 in 10 Australians, nearly 1/3 of New South Wales population, live in Western Sydney. But the region receives just 1% of Commonwealth funding, arts program funding, and 5.5% of the state government's arts funding. The Fairfax journalist was quoting figures from Building Western Sydney's Cultural Arts Economy, a report compiled by Deloitte and commissioned by a group of Western Sydney councils. Deloitte also found that taxpayers spent more than 4 times the money on subsidising each visitor to venues in the Sydney CBD compared with Western Sydney. The Deloitte report and the significant imbalance of arts funding demonstrates the cultural funding inequality and puts to bed the loud objections of the inner-city arts activists. They are pulling no punches opposing the government's decision to including accusations of a developer-driven sale of the Powerhouse Museum site, and let me say the dollars in that conspiracy just do not add up, and pork barrelling for the marginal seat of Parramatta. Apart from the insult to the outstanding member for Parramatta, Dr Geoffrey Lee, who doesn't need pork barrelling to get himself re-elected, when did reforming funding for the arts in favour of a critical region where the bulk of Sydney's population actually do live constitute pork barrelling? The member for Parramatta has quite rightly hit back at suggestions that Parramatta should have a small annex of the Powerhouse Museum, saying, quote, "We are not the little brother or the poor cousin of Sydney CBD. We will not accept second best." The site of a former David Jones car park on the banks of the Parramatta River and the early design concepts show that the Baird government is thinking creatively about how this building will connect Western Sydney locals and especially young students to the culture and the arts. The Minister for the Arts and the other place has already said that the museum will be aiming to attract 1 million annual visits by 2030 and will exhibit 40% more of the Powerhouse collection than the current site does. The relocated Powerhouse will become part of a new $30 million arts and cultural package for Western Sydney over the next 4 years. During construction, the construction of the new museum will create between 3,000 and 3,200 jobs and will come online in Parramatta as well. Some suggest that Western Sydney doesn't need a cultural museum. Some suggest they don't care about culture outside of their own football teams. Well, I accept that. My experience is that is completely untrue. There is a great hunger for arts in Western Sydney. It has always been there, and I am reminded of the wonderful Lewis Bequest Gallery at Penrith, where I grew up, or the many theatres that have come and gone over the years. Opponents of the relocation should take a train trip to see the Casula Powerhouse Arts Centre, which operates at an extremely high standard and on the smell of an oily rag in Western Sydney. I was there recently representing the Minister for the Arts at the Blake Prize, one of Australia's oldest art prizes, celebrating art of religious and spiritual nature, and it's an international arts prize as well. The prize is open to all faiths and cultures, and so it's no surprise that it fits perfectly within the dynamic and fast-growing cultural hub of Liverpool and South West Sydney. In my time at Liverpool before entering this place, I witnessed the vibrant arts culture of Western Sydney, the emerging unique art of the Darug people of the Eora Nation, and the recent and not so recent stories of migrant Australians. We know that museums in communities like Liverpool and Parramatta represent more than just sheds to hang a few artworks on. They are vital cultural infrastructure which the community takes ownership of. In my childhood, a trip to the art gallery or museum in Sydney as a school exertion was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And we hear from schools in Western Sydney today that it's simply not possible to do such trips owing to things like traffic and time and congestion and the cost. I think all members would agree that a visit to an art gallery or a cultural facility as a student can be, for the lucky few, a life-changing moment. The relocation of the Powerhouse Museum to Parramatta will open up a huge range of opportunities for the young and students of Western Sydney, opportunities available to their fellow students in the inner city, the north and east. This alone justifies the move to me. But the 2013-14 annual report from the Powerhouse Museum shows total visitation is 16.1% lower than the 10-year average, whilst I acknowledge there has been a slight increase in the past year. Even more importantly is the change in the origin of the visitors. In the same report, the proportion of Sydney-siders visiting the museum was at 55%, and this year it's increased to 61%. This evidence is that the museum needs a Sydney-based visitation to survive. At the end of the day, it's simply not enough to build railroads and roads to serve employment and growth corridors. It's not enough to decentralise government workers and departments to support new education facilities. If we want a really, truly world-class, future-proof, polycentric city, a city of cities, a city of social equity, a city of vision and ideas, these places also need cultural investment too.